Hi, so I just wanted to give my opinion on what's going on with this big Zoe Saldana Nina Simone debate. And I wanted to say that I wholeheartedly agree that Zoe Saldana is not dark enough to be Nina Simone. And I really am not comfortable with the fact that she has to be in blackface to play another blackface. I think they should have, and they could have found someone who was just as talented or more talented than Zoe Saldana, but who actually was already dark enough to play Nina Simone. And also, not just that it was dark enough, but had some of the same features, such as big lips um, and a wider nose. So I think that Hollywood has a history of downplaying or erasing, eliminating, denying that someone's skin color has anything to do with their experience. And I think that's an insult to Nina Simone and all women of color, light and dark-skinned, because I have to be honest, as a light-skinned woman, dark-skinned women are not the only ones that deal with any type of negative stereotyping or any type of discrimination in general. Because I always hear in the light-skinned, dark-skinned debate, I hear mostly against light-skinned women for treating dark-skinned women badly. But I think that's part of the Willie Lynch syndrome, if anyone knows what that is. We're not really sure whether the Willie Lynch letter really existed, but I am darn sure that the Willie Lynch syndrome is alive and rampant. Everyone has it. And it goes, and we can talk about that another time, but so I'm just saying, for example, in the movie The Help, they completely chose the wrong person, in my opinion, to play Constantine's daughter. Though she wasn't a big, huge role in the movie, or in the book for that matter. I feel like they completely erased the story because Constantine was a biracial woman and she had a daughter with a white man. So her daughter would be what back in the day they would call a quadroon, I believe. But today the more PC term would be multiracial. And she was very, very light-skinned. And from what the description said in the book, it seemed like she was lighter than me. And I'm quite light-skinned. So I thought it was really strange when I saw the movie that she was dark-skinned. And it's not just simply the descriptor, but in the movie, Constantine was separated from her daughter because it was simply too dangerous for a dark-skinned, albeit biracial, woman. It was too dangerous for a dark-skinned woman to be walking around with a hardly black, almost white child. It was too dangerous for her, so that was part of that experience because she was too light to be black, and it was too dangerous for a dark-skinned woman to do that in that time. So I was very confused when I saw the movie, and I guess if you didn't read the book, you would have no idea, but that's part of the story, and I feel like they completely erased it. Excuse me. But enough about that. So we know that skin tone does have an effect on someone's experience. And I also wanted to say that a lot of people are upset that Zoe Saldana is not African American, and I really think that's just kind of stupid and limited, because if we're talking about African Americans, look back in the Civil Rights Movement. There were so many West Indians that were a part of that, but we are thinking about blackness as only coming from Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia and South Carolina, but not all black people hail from those places. And I actually know some people that are self-identified as African Americans today, but they apparently they have roots back to Cuba and Dominican Republic and Jamaica and all of that, but so technically they're not African American because they don't have roots back to the American slaves. But why do you have to choose between those two? It's my thing. Like, as a person myself, I identify as an African American, but I too have some, I have a mixed up background. I have some from Mexico and some from Puerto Rico, but I also have some from Alabama and Virginia, and so I just don't understand why we have to do it like that. But on the flip side, I just found this blog that started out talking about Zoe Saldana playing Nina Simone, and wondering if people would be in an uproar about this HBO series called Number One Ladies Detective Agency that's supposed to take place in Botswana, and the main characters are supposed to be African but are played by African Americans. And so far I haven't seen anyone talking about that. And the blog pointed out that many people see blackness through a sole lens of African American. And I just wanted to say that African Americans are not the only black people in the world. And we are not the only black people in the Americas, and I find it hilarious and ridiculous and confusing when so many times I know so many African Americans that are trying to force the label of blackness upon Colombians and Venezuelans and Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, and Cubans who happen to be Afro-Latino, and they want them to choose a race instead of identifying with their ethnicity, whether it be Panamanian or Cuban, Dominican, or whatever. And so they're always constantly trying to tell them, oh, you're black. You're black. They want them. But come a movie about an important black woman, they're like, you're not black enough. I'm just confused. Yeah, so I'm just saying you have to pick one. Pick one, guys. But I think, I think that their ethnicity shouldn't matter, and racially speaking anyway, we're all mixed. We're mixed up, and as I said, some African Americans are actually from the West Indies, so you're not technically African either. African American. So I just think that we shouldn't really keep that lens like that. And if we're going to be complaining about that, then we need to we need to start boycotting films with black British actors and actresses in there, and we need to complain about them being in movies. But I don't think anyone's ready to do that. So I think we should just shut up on that end about the ethnicity. But Hollywood needs to stop ignoring, pretty much, they need to stop ignoring skin color, because we live in a world with colorism, racism, discrimination, etc., etc., etc. So, that's just my opinion. Alright, peace.